Hi class, this is Christian, and this is the application development for ASP.NET. I'm going to just go over ASP.NET for a bit here. For those of you who have questions, again, probably my fault for not being too clear, but the reason why you don't see Unit 2 is because you haven't checked this little the radio button here, which is marked reviewed. And I was asked by the dean, to take a little survey. So if you will be kind enough to take the short survey, and once you're done with that, just click the mark review. I mean, even if you don't take the survey, if you click on that, you still see it. But we would appreciate if you would take the survey. And so once you click the review, and you should see the Unit 2 show up down here. Excuse me. Okay, so in Unit 2, it asks you to pretty much read chapters 2 and 3, and you can basically skim through them. You don't have to read, word for word. Just want to make sure you understand. Again, it's almost like a review of HTML and CSS and how they work, but you'll be doing that inside the Visual Studio environment, so just a little bit different, but everything should be pretty straightforward. Okay, now I'm going to go into the Visual Studio. I'm using Visual Studio 2017, the ultimate version. I think, I don't remember what the version is. But you can get that Visual Studio, the full version, for free from on the hub, which is the Microsoft Imagine site if you're a student. So I encourage you to download all this software and just use them. So when you create a project in here, I have a new project here, right? I have a list of options here because these are some of the things that are already created. So it will show up here. You may not see this yet. If you do see it, then it's a shortcut to create like your web project. Okay, so it's much quicker. But so for now, we're going to go and create a new project. You can click here, the icon here, or File, New Project. Okay, and make sure you have Visual C# and not Visual Basic. We're not going to use Visual Basic in here, although they are very similar. We'll be using Visual C. Under Visual C, it has a lot of other applications here. You can filter this by clicking on the web part only. So we're looking at the web applications and not the core. Okay, a little bit different, but we use the .NET framework. So click on that one, give it a name. If you don't, it's going to give you the default name of web application 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you already have 5, it's going to go 6 and so on. So I'm going to say this is my first web ASP I'll call it the web form. I'll use the web form first, okay? And just go next. Again, depending on when you save it, just make sure you know where it's been saved. But we can find that out later too. You can change it. And click OK. It's going to ask you for different forms. So you have the empty one. We're not going to use that because if you use that, everything is empty pretty much. All you have are just your libraries. And so we don't want to start from, from a bare application. We're going to go with the web forms. And you'll be mainly working on the web forms and MVC in this class. So mostly will be an MVC later on. But for now, let's just say we're going to web forms. That should be checked automatically. You can check these if you want. It doesn't matter. If you do, you're just going to have some folders in there and they'll be empty. So I think the book asks you to do these, but it doesn't matter. So web forms, just click OK. And I will compare this with the MVC framework too, so you can see the difference between the different layouts here. So it's going to take a while to format. Okay, so here we have it, the typical layout of a web forms. You can see here, I'm going to expand this a little bit more. You can see all these files. The center is your editing area, right? The left is your toolbox, and you have several other stuff like the server down here on the bottom for connecting to a MySQL, or a SQL server. The toolbox will be like your tools. If you ever done Visual Basic, this will be like your controls, like the buttons and labels and text boxes and so on, all be listed here. CSS properties and other stuff like apply styles. So mostly you'll be using the toolbox here. Okay, if you want to use the GUI interface to develop your web page, and you can pin these one, pin these, and they'll collapse to the left column here, so give you more space to code. I'll leave it at this. On the right side is your Explorer. You know what? Let me just turn it back on. Your Explorer is on the right side. If you already know your Visual Studio layout, this is typical. This is your files. Your physical files are here. There are some hidden files. You don't see it until you click this little icon here that says Show All Files. Okay, if you see that, you can toggle this on and off. I have a bin button, a folder, an object folder, and so on. So just it doesn't matter if you leave it on or not. Just make sure that this is where you would toggle to show the invisible files. The bottom is your properties based on your file you select up here. For example, if I select an About page, it shows the properties down here. The name, what the URL will look like, the content. If you scroll down, you have some more stuff. Okay, the file name itself, the location, the physical location where it's stored in your folder. And another tab is the Team Explorer. You will change the content above here. You're now working on a team, so this is for like version control, things like that, right? So if you work on a team project, and then you can track who is editing what, so you can know that. But since we're doing your own, we just don't have to worry about that one for now. All right, so look at this again. The file, the project name is first ASP web form. Okay, if you want to know what that is located down here. If you expand the properties folder button panel, you will see there is a link to your project folder. Okay, and to go there, you just basically double click, or you can do a Control A when you click there, Control C to copy that, or just copy that link. Go to like a folder in your drive, the desktop for example, and just paste that link there, and it takes you right into that project folder and your physical drive. And if I ask you to zip your project and upload to Blackboard, this is what you would do. You go here and zip everything. So it's the easiest way is to go up the folder, like maybe 2 levels up. If you go here, you have the packages and the solution file. If you one more, okay, so for example, this is a project. These are some other projects I worked on. So then you just basically right click on this and 7-zip it. Okay, 7-zip is a free zipping program you can download for free. It's just Google for it and download and use that. Or you can just say send to compressed, and it will compress that, and then you just basically upload that. Okay, so this is where it's going to be located. So now back in here. Okay, one thing, if you are not familiar with Visual Studio, so here is the toolbox, right? All your tools, all your controls, you can do that visually, drag and drop. If you ever use Dreamweaver or Microsoft Expression, this is how you do it, just drag and drop. So the layout here, if you like the way it is, that's great. If you don't like it, you can rearrange it to however you want it, right? So, and also, let's say I accidentally delete my Explorer and it's gone, right? It's gone. And you can always get that back from the View. Okay, the View menu shows you all your windows. They're all here. So here is the Solution Explorer. Click that, it comes back. If I accidentally delete any one of these, it'll be in the View menu. Okay. If you want to move things around, so a typical IDE layout will be usually your folders are on the left side and not the right side, right? So I can drag the head or the bar here and just drag with my mouse and move around until I hit one of these axes, right? So this is on the left side. You can see that if I do that, it highlights in blue. That's the location what's going to be, right? If I drop it, it's now goes side by side with my properties. Again, you can drag and move to the center here. Okay, well, on the left side will be over here and replaces my toolbar. Okay, and I can move my toolbar maybe like right below it or above it or next to it. Okay, or on it, right? It doesn't matter. And then now I have the option of choosing the tabs down here. So here's the toolbox, the Explorer, because it's tiny, so it doesn't have the name. But if you collapse these, it's on the left. And there's the Solution Explorer. And if you like this pattern, because this is a typical layout for most IDEs, most usually your files in the left column, the editing part, and then your properties on the right. And if you like it this way, you can save this layout. So you can go to Window and Save Layout, and just give it a name, just in my Fab Layout. Click OK. Now it's stored inside the layout here, right? So if you reset it back to original, and then you come in here, I want to get my favorite layout, go here and apply the layout, and then just say yes, and there it is. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the original layout as it was, because it's Visual Studio, right? Just because it's Visual Studio. And then, okay, if you don't like it, also you can delete it by going to Manage Event Layout and then just select and delete. Okay, so let's reset back to the original layout. Okay, I'm going to just unpin that, have more room to work with. So Visual Studio Web Forms, all your pages are here. It's all going to be in the ASPX extension. Okay, if you want this to be rendered on the server, if you create this plain HTML, you can. It'll be just HTML. It's not going to be rendered by the engine. Okay, so ASPX, you have the About page, the Contact page, the default, which is also the Index page. They're kind of similar. Okay, and you have some other files. This is just configuration files. Just don't touch these. You have the site master. You have two site master here. These are templates. Okay, you have a master which is for the desktop version, and you have a master for the mobile version. Okay, into the web config. Again, these you don't have to touch these for now. So every page you create in here, well, it's up to you. But if you look at the About page, for example, you see that there's only a couple lines of code. Okay, your HTML tags are here, just 3 lines basically. The rest are rendered in the master file. So if you look at the top, this line here, it's a special directive. It tells you the title of the page is going to be. It's going to be a page. Okay, this is page is an object. The title is going to be about. So this title here is being shown here. Okay. The language used is going to be C#. You can change this to VB if you want to, but we're going to use C#. The master file page here, right? It's called the site.master, and that's this guy right here. I'm going to open that for now. Okay, and let me open the About page as well. And let me turn that off. So, and then one more thing we want to know is this about.aspx.cs. This is called the code behind file. Why is it called code behind? Well, if you look at this file, if you click on the arrow here, it is behind it, right? So this is the actual code behind it. If you open that, it has just a bunch of C# syntax. Okay, so this is C# code. If you're familiar with C# or Java, this is exactly same, right? You have all the imports, utilities or classes, and you have your class name here. It's called about. Okay, that will extend the page. Okay, this page here is this page here, right? Kind of. And then you have a load to load your page. There's nothing there yet. This is a default setup for every file when you create a new one. The default behind file will look like this. A namespace is basically the name of your application, right? So you have first ASP web form. This is generated automatically. So don't change these if you don't know your way around Visual Studio. Just keep the default. Okay, so back here again. So now I have ASP tag, and then followed by the word content. ID is a body content. Okay, the body content for this tag has an ID. Then the content placeholder ID is called main content. And you have it run at and then the server. So this is important. This means that every code inside this tag between these lines here will be rendered on the server. Okay? If you don't have that there, then it won't. And you have some you'll have some problem if you put ASP code in here. Okay, so look at the master for a bit here. So this master has all the HTML. This is your main template. It has a lot of stuff in it. Okay, so if you don't like it, you can create your own master page template. Okay, but the important thing is that everything here will be generated for you. So the page title. So as you can see, it will grab the page.title, right? That means it will go to your page.title. If you change that, it's going to be reflected here. Okay, and followed by this is a hard-coded text. And but let me just run this. You can see it. You can run just the regular debugging. If you do that, it's going to take a while because try to debug. You can just run without debugging. It's much faster that way. It's going to take a while to compile, right? And so here we have our first page. You've seen this before already. Running on port number 71009. It might be different every time we run it. And again, my port might be different from yours, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so here's the page. So the navigation is all up here. You have the content, which is your body of your code, and you have the footer. So three major parts: the navigation, the body content, and the footer. So if you go to every page, you have the same navigation, same footer, right? The difference is just the content. Okay, so look at the about page, for example. Go back to the code. If you look at the about page, that's what you see. You don't see all the HTML because that is rendered by the master file. You see are just three lines: the title, which is called about, the another text here, and you have a paragraph tag. And that's what you see, the about, and then those two other tags. If I change the title to say about me, right? If I save that, notice I'm editing this ASPX file and not the C# file. Okay, it's different. If you do that, you can make any changes you want here. Just save it and go back to the browser and refresh. Just click refresh or reload, and it will make the changes for you. So here I added that thing here. So if you look at the tab, it also changed it to say about me. Okay, this tab here is coming from the master file. It says page.title, right? Because I changed the title to say that, it's going to grab that, put that there. I can also display here. Okay, this little syntax here, the bracket, angle bracket, followed by the percent, followed by the colon here, it's called ASP expression. It shows that this is a code. It grabs the title here and puts that there. Okay, if you are familiar with PHP or JSP for Java, this should be familiar to you. Okay, this is a directive. You can use the colon or you can use the equal sign. I think either one should work fine in here. If I save that, if I go back, and you can see that it makes no difference. It should still work. Okay, if you are familiar with PHP, then this is probably very similar. So either one is fine. Okay, so this is the about page. Again, it looks for a content, a placeholder called ID or main content based on this master file, right? So if you look at the master file, there is a place down here, the navigation, and the content of the body content called main content. So this ID here, it has a tag called content placeholder. ID is called main content, and that's exactly where this is go. So all these will be rendered inside this location called main content in the master file. Okay, so this is a master file, and so basically this is the only part where you have your your body content for every page that you create if you use this master page. The rest will be identical. So this is the footer part, this is the navigation, right? And this are just a bunch of scripts loaded to your page, and your header part is up here. Okay, so if you were to look at this and do a source view, you can see what things are, right? All these are part of the scripts all the way down to, this is the navigation here, and then all the way down to this part. Okay, all these are part of the master file. And then this little tiny part is what you have, those 3 lines. That's those 3 lines here. Right? And then again, all these are the masters. Right, back to the master page. From here, from the HR all the way down to the footer. And if you look at each of these, it'll be exactly the same. The contact page, again, just this part, and then the default page, the home page, okay, same thing, right? It's no header and footer because it's all provided by the master. Okay, so let's go back to the segment. So this is how ASP web forms is structured. So this is very typical, right? Your pages are here, all your physical pages here. Inside the scripts folder is where you put your JavaScripts in here. The fonts, if you have any special fonts, you put that in here. The content would be like graphics or style sheets, and you put that in here. These are just some special bundle files or configuration files. We will look at this later on when we deal with routers, okay, and a few other stuff. So again, don't delete these and don't touch these for now. Mainly these down here. Just be careful not to change any of these config files. Okay. Okay, so look at this about page here. Okay. Instead of doing this, I'm gonna go create a new file, so you know how things work. Okay, so let's close this, and I'm gonna create a new file. You can go and click on the project name, do a right click on it. Okay, go to add, and you can go to add new, or you can say add web form, but this is you can do that. It's a shortcut here as well. Okay, so you can go new, and it will show you all the different types of forms you can add, or things like your HTML, JavaScript, style sheet, web forms, and so on. Okay, so under the web directory, you want to get the one that says web form with master. If you want to use the master file, if you don't, then just get the plain web form, and that will give you without the master. And you can still manually go there and code it to have the master. But let's just say I'm going to create a master file, okay, and I'll give it a different name. I will call it, maybe I'll just say test for now. That's not good. Let's call it hello. And save, add, and here you get to choose which version you want to use, the master, the mobile version or the desktop. So we choose the desktop. Let's click OK. Alright, so here we have it. Here is the hello. We have our code behind automatically generated for us by default, which is good, right? And so here is, let me just put a few lines in between so we know. So your content will go between this content tag here. Outside of it, you can put outside if you want, but it's not going to be rendered on the server. So mainly like HTML, other things, but usually your code will go inside here. And then up here is, so if you look again, the title, we didn't put a title here yet, so you could say hello, right? And we're using C#. Okay, so in here, let's just say I'm going to put an H1, and I'm just going to say, welcome to my first ASP page. Okay, if I save that and go ahead and run it, again, I'm going to do without the debugger, so it's much quicker. It should load on the same page as I did earlier. It's going to take a little while. So let me close these tabs. Okay, so here is my first page using the default master page, right? Here's, I'll just leave those as they are. And just this one line here. And the title goes up here as a hello. And then the message. Okay, that's great. Now let's go back. Okay, so here I can do a few things. You can write ASP script, or mainly just C# code in here. If you want to do that, you can put the script tag followed by the run at equals server. you have to do that to make sure this is a C# script. Okay. Another one you can do is the JavaScript. Now, to put JavaScript, I don't think it lets you put out here because it's yeah, it doesn't recognize that because it's not part of ASP. So you can write JavaScript. You can put inside the tag here. Okay. And if you put script without anything after it in the opening tag, this is JavaScript. This is ASP, or I mean a C# script. Just make sure they are you know what the differences are. So in the script up here, if you know your C#, I can write a message that things like a string type called message1. Just say I'll just copy this message and put it up there. Okay. X that out, put it here. So this is my message in the C#. I can put another message in the JavaScript. I can say var message2. Just say learn ASP.NET. This is JavaScript. Then to display this message inside the H1, I would do like before, angle bracket, %, colon or equal sign, and the variable name, message1. Okay, I mistyped that one. So it will, this is called expression, ASP expression. This is a script allows you to write C# script. And then the JavaScript, you could say like here, H2, and if it's a script, so you can put script tag, and you can put like document.write, write the message to for JavaScript. So save that. Again, I'm just changing my SPX file. I'm not changing the C# file, so I can just go back and refresh my page. Okay, so this one doesn't change because it's coming from the C#. This is the ASP JavaScript. If you do a source view, you'll see that you won't see your C# script, just the the JavaScript and your JavaScript only. Okay. So that's how you would put scripts inside your document and output it back to the browser using this expression tag. You can also write functions too. I can say here, I could write a function with a private modifier. It doesn't matter in this case. I call it a string type. I'm just going to say get message. Takes no parameter and return the message1 back, basically, right? So instead of saying message, the variable name, I'm going to call this function. I get the message and put the paren there. So now I'm calling the message again just to make sure it works. I'll just put another maybe couple exclamation marks here. You save that, go back, refresh, and so you see that it's calling the function to do that for you. Okay, again, if you are familiar with PHP, this is exactly the same way. Okay. So you put your scripts here directly on the page, and then you can put that down here. You can also concatenate, right? You could say, like, put an integer type here. Age is equal to, I don't know, let's just say 30, for example. And you can say, like, welcome to my first page. And you could say here, plus this concatenator, and put a comma, I am, and then again plus age, plus, I know it doesn't make sense, but just to show you that it works this way, years old. Okay, so I'm going to concatenate all these inside one tag. It's going to call this function, grab that text, append that with another text, I am 30 years old. Okay, save that, refresh, and you should see that here. So there it is. Right? Okay, so that's one piece. Now the next piece is the code behind file over here. If you open the file, this one here is an object, right? It's a class. Again, if you're not familiar with classes, we'll learn that in the next chapter. But this is a class called hello. by default, the page load here loads this page here for you. Whatever you have here, it will load that for you. That's what you see it. If you don't have that, you won't see that, right? Now, let's just say I'm going to put this function inside there. I could do that as well. I could move all these. You know what? Instead of doing, just write a new one. We'll go in here. We'll write a new function. It needs to be protected or public. Okay, it cannot be private. If you do private, it won't work. So I'm going to return a string, and I'm going to call this get sum or something, right? And I'll just return the sum of two numbers. Maybe we'll pass in two parameters. We'll put like int a, int b, and we'll return the sum of those, a plus b. Okay, so this is a function. It should be integer type, sorry. So a function returns a sum of two numbers called getSum. Then out here, I can access directly from here. I could say, instead of age, I can call that function called getSum, right? It's visible here because I put it protected, and I can pass in two numbers. Let's just say 12 and 12, right? If I say that, it's going to add those two, it'll say 24. Now, if I go back and refresh it, I'm going to get an error because it does not know what this function is. Okay, if you get this, and the reason why is because now you modify your C# script. You added something in there. If you make any changes in this file, the code behind file, you have to either rerun the program again, the file again, or you have to rebuild it. So go back to the build and just say rebuild the solution. Okay, once you rebuild that, if there's no error, then you can go back to the browser and refresh it to see the new changes. So now there's no error, no zero fail. I can go back and I refresh it, and I will see the new changes. Okay, and that's just the way it is. So here it says I'm 24 years old instead of the other one. So because I'm calling a function inside the code behind file, I pass two parameters and get that out, and I get that. If it changes to like 24, if I save that, it will say a different number here, 36. Okay, so this is how ASP.NET Forms work, web forms work. So you have your script you can run locally here on the same page. Okay, use the expression to show the information out to the view. You have to use the expression to show it. You cannot just like go here and you know, write to the console. If you do that, it will display in the console down here only. And then you have your code behind file. This is useful for you know, putting all your code behind here, because if you put a lot of scripts here, it gets ugly. Yeah, it gets pretty ugly, confusing. So you want to put everything behind your code here. You access it directly from here, right? Because I can put all these in there. I can just grab all these here, X that out, and put it in here. Okay, I have to change this to protected though. I had a private earlier. Protect it or make that as public. So if I save that, go back here, I don't need this anymore. Okay, as you can see, everything still flows just as is, right? Okay, and because I made the change, I need to rebuild my solution. So I can change this to, let's just say, change it back just to one exclamation mark, save that, rebuild my solution because I made the changes. Takes a couple of seconds to go. Here we go, zero fail. Go back to my browser, we could just see one exclamation mark. If it loads successfully. Okay, so there it is. Alright, so that's how ASP.NET Forms work. If you have any questions, please let me know. But this is how you build your web pages.